Hello, my name is Grant Greenbaum, and today I will be doing a short presentation on competitive swimming. Now, without further ado, let's dive right into the history of competitive swimming. Now, competitive swimming has a long history as it all began in 1830 in Great Britain. It then expanded to an even larger scale when in 1896, it even had its place in the first modern Olympic Games, in which took place in Athens. Fast forward 12 years after that, and FINA, also known as FINA, was created. Now, FINA is the World Swimming Association. And as SwimmingWorldMagazine.com states, essentially the goal was to establish unified rules for swimming, diving, and water polo applicable at the Olympic Games and other international competitions. Now, what this means is that FINA was essentially going to standardize swimming. So that way all the rules and regulations were always the same, and that way you can have true winners at these events. And so obviously since 1908, swimming has greatly expanded as a whole, and it's become much more advanced as new techniques and new strokes were created in order to go through the water faster. Now, speaking of the strokes, let's go ahead and talk about each stroke individually. Now, the first stroke in which I will talk about is the butterfly. Now, the butterfly is said to be the most difficult stroke, and that is said for a good reason. As LiveHealthy.com states, swimming butterfly uses 27 different muscles. Multiply that by 2 because you're using the muscles on each side of the body, and you've got more than 50. However, even though butterfly may seem challenging in terms of using more than 50 muscles, with proper dedication, anyone could honestly learn how to do the butterfly. Now, talking about the stroke itself, it has a pull phase underneath the water, it then has a recovery phase on top of the water. Now, this could be said about all the strokes, going through a pull phase in which you get all the power, and then going through a recovery phase in which you get a short rest. So then going into backstroke, it has its pull phase underneath the water as you're sweeping through, then its recovery phase as the other arm goes on top of the water and does the same thing. Now next we'll talk about breaststroke. So breaststroke is essentially the frog stroke. So you're essentially doing a frog kick, and then you are doing the pull phase with your arms, you are sweeping out, and then going in, and then pulling. And then that is your recovery phase as you are in streamline. Now lastly, I will talk about freestyle. And freestyle is the easiest stroke to learn and the most common stroke for modern normal swimmers, essentially, who aren't very competitive and just want to enjoy themselves in the water. Now with freestyle, you go through the pull phase, and then you go through the recovery phase on top of the water, and then you extend your arms. So this is essentially backstroke, but on your stomach. So this all leads into the individual medley, in which is an event in swimming and not an actual stroke. So the event individual medley is essentially all 4 strokes put together, which is the butterfly, the backstroke, the breaststroke, and the freestyle. So this is where the all-around swimmers can thrive, such as Michael Phelps. Lastly, I will talk about the popularity of swimming in general. So in the Olympics, swimming is actually the second most watched sport. And as sportshow.net states, it is simple as to why this is, as Michael Phelps obviously impacted the sport greatly. So what he did was actually win 8 Olympic gold medals at 1 Olympic Games, and he actually has 28 Olympic medals total, and 23 Olympic gold medals, I believe. So the problem, however, is that outside of the Olympics, swimming does not get any credit and is not as popular as the NBA or the NFL or anything like that. However, what FINA is trying to do is essentially change that with the ISL, also known as the International Swimming League. Now, with the International Swimming League, they are making it similar to the NFL and the NBA in that the swimmers are actually getting paid to do this. Now, by getting paid to do this, it promotes them to actually swim past college, in which many swimmers stop after that. And so, essentially, FINA actually changed its goal to grow a global audience of at least 100 million devoted followers over 5 years. So if they achieve that goal, swimming will actually become just as well known as the NBA and the NFL. Now to conclude, today I talked about the history of competitive swimming, the 4 different strokes in competitive swimming, and the popularity of swimming as a whole and where swimming wants to get to in the future. Now, thank you very much for listening.